Good evening. Welcome to the Blockchain Asia show. I'm Michelle, and I have with me Gustavo.
Hi. Right next to you today.
Right next to me.
Yeah. I'm usually in like Verner's seat.
It's going to be so much easier to high five.
Yeah, I know. High five. Yeah.
Wow. And we have with us today, we have Verner of MetaH, and we also have Roy of DeFi. And also you were just at, you organized the Unchained 2018 event, and we have lots to talk about how blockchain landscape is going. You know, we have a use case to talk about and about disruption of the blockchain.
What is Unchained?
So Unchained basically is an initiative, or actually is an event that is co-organized together with SAFRA, SAFRA Tech Club. I'm sure everyone knows.
Which is the government,
yes,
right?
It's the government body.
So it's the Singapore government body.
Yes, the Singapore government body, SAFRA Tech Club, and as well as DeFi itself. So because we understand that there's many events right now, there's just too focusing on just having a page and, you know, talking about technical aspects of blockchain, in which the mass public can't really understand what is blockchain about through such technical aspect. So Unchained is created for the mass public, to educate the mass public about blockchain. And what is it about? Basically, we invited industry veterans. We invited projects that has good use case studies on blockchain, like MetaH, for example. And we also have a few projects, like the one, I would say, we have exchanges, top exchanges in the world joining us, like Huobi, Bbox. We have good protocols like Stella, NEM, that's joining us to share more about the blockchain use cases, how to encourage mass adoptions, and etc. So I think SAFRA Tech Club, it comprises of many companies in this as well. And their main purpose is to drive technologies and work towards a smart nation as well. So I think blockchain is a very good way to actually work forward from there.
Interesting.
I get excited about talking about this because I like talking about the practical applications, the real life applications. I know we have, Singapore is the ICO capital of the world right now, and the token economy is huge here. I like to look at the other aspects as well, the use of the technology. So welcome.
And the fact that SAFRA organized Unchained, that was surprising. I feel like there's a lot of organizations that come together, and SAFRA would be probably the last one that I would think that would probably be involved. But I think of all the governmental bodies, because there's so many other sort of bodies that would come into this space. So it's very interesting that they've actually come together to form the Unchained.
Definitely. I mean, I feel that basically they've actually started Tech Club just about probably last year. I would say, if I'm not wrong.
Okay.
So it's an initiative that started with many tech companies like I would say Aftershock. And I would say Challengers. They have Huddle. And I would say Secret Lab. So it's an initiative in which most tech or games companies coming together to actually promote, because recently esports is getting really recognized around as well, and blockchain is definitely as well picking up. So they wish to, instead of just focusing on family events as well as
community and swimming pools and gyms.
Correct. So they believe that giving such aspect, and it's also a good way to test the crowd. If they are really interested in blockchain, before they launch out blockchain courses every now and then, as we know, SAFRA have a lot of courses for the member of the public and member of SAFRA as well. So I think it's a way for them to really test it out if blockchain is really incoming and if everybody is actually interested in it as well.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
All of the things you get, like community building, which is like all the swimming pools and the gyms, and then you completely bypass the sort of everything else in the technology and go straight to the moon, which is the blockchain. Like there's so many more like AI, AR, VR, and all of the other technologies. They just go straight to blockchain. That's fascinating. So Verner, are you also part of the sort of this Unchained? Were you also involved? How were you involved in blockchain before?
Yeah, so we were there to actually let people know what MetaH is actually doing, and it's actually a very good event where we actually tell the public where don't get confused. Blockchain is not all about bitcoins.
Awesome.
Yeah. Those traditional and old people, they always think, oh, blockchain, it must be bitcoins. No, but it's not. It's just a technology. We are teaching them, the public, like what kind of technology blockchain is, what can it actually helps in different industry.
We actually organized the event a while back, and it was about programming on the blockchain, on the Ethereum. So how do you program on Ethereum and do a buy and sell and stuff? And we had two elderly that walked in, and they were in wheelchair. One of them was in wheelchair, and I was just trying to explain to them, this is not a crypto trading event. Like you need to program, you need to have a laptop. And they were like, oh, okay. so what is the price of Ethereum right now? I'm like, no, that is not what it was meant for. But it was a very interesting, conversation that I had with them, because a lot of people at large still think that blockchain it's equivalent to crypto.
Yes.
Right.
This is what I feel as well. Even for those, there's a lot of hype going on the blockchain industry. And there's a lot of criticism whether does your industry actually needs the blockchain technology. And I think that all of this criticism,
I'm sure you get that a lot in the medical field.
Right. Yeah. So you have a
We
very
do-
interesting take.
for us, how we did it is that we are not, I wouldn't even dare to say that we are like a life-changing solution to the medical industry. What we are trying to tell people through MedH is that you actually owns your own medical data. There's actually a huge debate going on right now.
About data, ownership.
Yeah, about who actually owns your medical data.
Yeah.
No one can actually answer this question because the medical data actually lies with your medical provider right now, and you do not know what they do with it. And if you want access to it, you actually have to pay money. You actually have to
Right.
wait for at least 2 weeks. But with blockchain technology, we can actually ensure you guys the ownership of the data.
Yeah. So you sort of give the control back to the
Yes,
patients
to
and
the
to
patient.
yeah.
Because to us, it doesn't make sense that you go for a consultation and then they just give you a receipt and your little diagnosis where you just throw the paper away, and if you need it in the future, you actually have to pay for it again.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, tell us how, because, obviously it makes perfect sense to me, but like in, right now you described how the way it goes, you don't keep the information yourself.
Yeah.
It's kept by your provider. And then when you need it, let's say you change physicians, you change medical plans, you change, so tell us like a real, pretty basic, like practical use of why having this on blockchain.
Okay, so I will just take Singapore for example.
Right.
Singapore government have came up with an NEHR system where all the doctors are actually obliged to enter your data into that system. So any doctor in Singapore that is into the NEHR system with your name, they could check all your past medical records. Would you want that?
Though, I don't see that. I guess because my past medical history isn't, there's nothing scandalous on it or anything.
Yeah.
Or so you
but,
think.
or so I think. Maybe something was entered incorrectly and I have no idea.
So if the doctors have access to it 24/7, would you want the same access?
Yeah, well, of course.
Just imagine a situation where you're traveling overseas and you met with an accident.
Exactly.
You will need all these medical records to actually show to the medical provider that you are receiving from overseas to actually operate on you. Even before they can actually operate on you, they have to bring you through some medical tests. What kind of medicine allergy are you, or any medications that you are currently on? They do not know all this information before they can actually diagnose you with medications and stuff. So for us, MedH, we have developed, I would say, a mobile application where you can actually store all your medical records and you can bring it around the world. Anywhere you go, you
That's
can
so
access
useful,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So is
24/7.
that stored on the blockchain?
Yes, you
Is
will
that
store
what
it
you
on the
said?
blockchain.
Okay. It's so interesting. Yeah, I think with identity, which is oftentimes one of the biggest concern, and we had a podcast just last week regarding this. We talked about how identity was so crucial, and it was oftentimes on the hands of other people, right? Organizations that were collecting those freely. And essentially now is a lot of organizations that are coming out with different ways to store that information. I think medical devices or the medical records is definitely one of the key things that you want to be get your hands on, especially when we're talking about incentives and money involved for claim purposes,
Right.
and of all the things. But on top of that, you also wouldn't want people when you're unconscious, right, or people who are trying to help you, not knowing that you have an allergy to a certain type of medication that they should have known before they inject you with that thing that is supposed to help you, but instead actually made more damage.
Yep. And then there's another thing which is actually ongoing for MedH. What we plan to do is actually helps the poor. We are trying to help the poor people to actually incentivize them when they store their medical data with you all the time.
Yeah.
Whenever they store data, MedH will actually give you a reward, a certain set of tokens. So these tokens can actually be used to offset medical bills in the future.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah, with
Cool.
the partners that we are having. in our ecosystem, where the doctors, when the patient actually pays the doctors with these medical tokens, these tokens can be used by the doctors to actually pay for medical lab tests and buy medical equipments. And we have created like a CMS software for the doctor to use and input all the diagnosis, medications, appointments. Yeah.
So you spoke about that entire sort of flow chain of where the patient comes in and the entire sort of going all the way, and which is very relevant to the hospitals, right? Essentially, it's the article that you wanted to sort of use just as talking about, which is South Korean hospitals are looking at applying blockchain technology in the medical information services space, and that is very close to heart to what you are building in Singapore.
Yes,
so what about the South Korean? How do you see that evolving in comparison to like in South Korea, where the technology of blockchain is sort of in a very different direction than Singapore?
Okay, I would find not only South Korea. If you guys have read the NSW from Australia, the government NSW in Australia, they actually came out with a white paper for the medical industry. They're trying to create an infrastructure on all the medical clinics and hospitals where they will input into a centralized data. So this is where I think our government is also trying to do that. But like I said, they have stored all into a centralized system, and with the recent hacks, any HR Singhealth got hacked 1.5 million.
Changi Hospital also got hacked.
So with a decentralized system from blockchain technology, we can actually prevent all this stuff that is happening. And it's tamper-proof. We are also trying to help the insurance company to fight against medical frauds, because right now the doctors have the ability to actually tamper the date, the time. Even the patients have the capability.
Right. So, for example, like something like this, because, putting things on the blockchain, it's unchangeable. And so the records have, this would be a really good practical case for it because it doesn't change. You go in, you see a doctor, you are diagnosed, or you have some prescription or something. So this is a really good use case. I was looking into, because I had, we'd done a show a while back, and we were talking about some of the patents of blockchain, and Alibaba has done a program where they're working with the government to also have records stored on the blockchain. And is your program? I don't know enough about yours and theirs, but how do you find a lot of, similarities? Is it how are you storing, or how does your
I will find that everybody would tend to go into the same space. Even in the medical industry, we will have many competitors. But what we are going to face is actually the usage of it. The adoption of blockchain. People will not know that we have implemented blockchain because they will only use the app. The blockchain technology is not where you can see it and I know that this is blockchain. It's the technology behind it. So what we are facing now is actually trying to get people to use the application, and then we will teach them through the applications and how we actually create the ecosystem within it.
Because blockchain really means nothing to the user, right? The user essentially cares about the user friendliness, how that UI UX, right? Am I able to navigate through? You could have the most craziest technology at the back, but then at the end of the day, the front end is so complicated that they can't really apply it. But at the same time, I think the technology, the capabilities of is able to use and how it's making sort of existing technologies go from very inefficient, a lot of friction, to being extremely open, very frictionless. I think that is the part that really people want to care about and see how. So what you touched on, like the front end usage, is just extremely important. Oftentimes, a lot of startups miss on that.
I will find that people actually goes into the UI and UX, but they don't really care about the technology that is behind it.
Right.
So we are trying to teach people through our website and stuff why we implement blockchain and why is it important where you guys have the permission of, like we created like a permission-based protocol into MedH. We hope that, to change the ownership of the data, where the medical providers, actually, they are the only guardian, they are the guardians to your data, but they don't own your data. So you guys actually get incentivized from storing your data, and medical data is one of the most expensive data in the world besides financial data. Okay, so what we are trying to do is that whenever someone wants to actually acquire this data from MedH, we will also incentivize those people that actually release the data for medical research. So it's like a fair gameplay for
Right.
everyone
Yeah.
that doesn't belong to the big organization that holds all your data.
So you talked about this value, price.
Yeah.
How do you put a dollar amount on data, right? And you talked about like how medical data was the most expensive data, one of the most expensive data in the world. How is that value determinant?
You can look it this way. Pharmaceutical companies will want all this data. They would know how much medicine or medication I have to produce this year.
Yeah.
It's for their business.
So it's the
Right.
potential of how much you
potential on
actually-
how
yeah.
much they can produce and what kind of medicine is actually moving in the market.
This topic fascinated me a lot a couple of years back. I always thought about like when we talk about insurance, and they value the actuarial work that is done behind to try to compute how much are you worth, right? And what is a life worth? I think that is the question that and that is very much in line with like data, because my life is what is out there, what people see me, and what is on the internet. In fact, today, like everything on the brick and mortar, the live, the real sort of things that we can touch, is everything that's gone digital, and it's coming back. Because nowadays we're even like, I love it when restaurants try to make their plates and their glasses all square so that it will fit perfectly in an Instagram photo, right? It's kinda,
I thought they will have an angle, where they take a
no,
photo.
it's like, and that's a perfect example of how real, it went from before, in the early years of the internet, we used to position everything so that the social media would be able to capture that and show as it is. But now it's going reverse. And the same thing I would say, who values that? If now data determines my value. Before I was the
Right.
determiner of the value of the data. Now it's the data is the determiner of my value.
Well, then you start to think about it. And so, great platform to have, for to have Safra, partner with Unchained and to be able to offer it, because you provide this case where it normalizes all of this rather than thinking, because it just came off with the scare of the data breach, and now you have this way to be able to talk about it and normalize it and make it very comfortable conversation to where people would be more inclined to say yes, and of course I want to be able to participate in receiving tokens, and so that's
the area of the receiving token, which is then actually is very much tied down, because then you've got the whole sort of medical space. And now Roy brought a very interesting topic, which is about Uber, right? Because Uber has done so many things right, but also so many things wrong.
Yeah, definitely, right.
So what fascinated you about, because the topic here is Uber, the blockchain problem. Could you tell us a little bit about what that is?
So for me, when we touch on blockchain problem, for me, I would like to actually compare Uber or to now blockchain. So Uber act as a very strong disruptor to the market. Before that was just, got a hail cab. So when I was rushing for a meeting, I had to run down the street to the nearest street, main street, and wait for a cab to
And they
drive
never
by.
stop.
Stop,
especially if it's raining, you can't ever find one.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know why, it's just by sheer luck or my luck that I always got them while they were changing shift. So I just can't get a taxi.
Oh yeah,
to-
in the whole world,
Right.
Singapore is probably one of the few countries where you will flag a cab and they choose a certain time, never stop.
Yeah, just changing shifts. So I was like, maybe it's just my luck or something. So with Uber, or if for this case Singapore, or in Southeast Asia right now, it's Grab, right? So in this case, they are the one that really disrupt the industry. They understand the need from the consumer perspective. They understand the need from the driver perspective, in which not everyone is able to get a taxi license, and it's not everyone, I would say, get a job that they really can choose the timing in which they wish to work. So they understand the problem and they solve the problem. So for blockchain, in this case, they solve a lot of problems, yet they also create a lot of problems. What I mean by create a lot of problems is there are a lot of companies, they try to squeeze blockchain in their use cases. They try to tokenize their asset, try to raise funds through that, which actually is not a very, very healthy process.
Yeah.
So I think in this recent news that's upcoming that, I would say this few months ago, blockchain has been going down, declining, cryptocurrency is dropping in rates.
And the media kind of sensationalized it by saying,
Yes.
this is the destiny of blockchain.
Bitcoin is worth nothing, and it's
Yeah.
totally in demise, and everybody thinks blockchain, Bitcoin, that's it.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
why which boils down to what I actually feel like covering as well, is that actually I think media play a very, very important role in actually providing the correct news to the public.
Education.
Yes, educating the public, because they have to take a responsibility in what they say, right? And be it, whichever who is looking to them, they set a benchmark to what information that they're conveying across.
So we've got Michelle here, who is very much in the space of media. I like to learn, like, what do you think about that? Like what Roy just said, like the media having such a large involvement and that responsibility. Because
it's all about messaging and communication and how you get out the message and how you communicate. And of course, media is now fueled on technology and data as well. But there's also that sensational aspect of the messaging that the media will start to portray. So we hear more cases.
And one of the biggest sort of controversies is that is saying that the media has a lot of power and a lot of influence, but yet there are like certain layers of responsibility. And we've seen through history so many times where this come in scrutiny, where they reported something with so much conviction, and yet it wasn't true. And then
I think we're seeing that right now with social media.
Yeah, exactly.
False news.
Well, now then now there's no way of who is supposed to be responsible, because social media is up to anybody's hand. So it's like that news is so shared. But sorry, I just thought because Michelle is so involved in the the media space and the social media space, and I was just interested to hear what your thoughts were about that.
I mean, yeah, obviously social media is being manipulated right now by a lot of different algorithms that are fueling fake news. And but that is another discussion. I mean, because that is like we could go on and on about that. But especially like in cases of Uber and how Uber came in and disrupted the space, and awesome idea. They took these problems, they solved them, and then ...
Yes, they should actually focus. I mean, technology is definitely a great aspect. In the anger is a good aspect, but what builds a company is definitely the team, the person running it. And of course, like I said, media play an important role with spreading the news and all. So for Uber, definitely, it's quite unfortunate for them to face such many bad incidents after bad incidents. And I think it's a good move for them to, take up shares with Grab and let Grab take in, because they're just targeting too many countries at one time. And I think they're losing their focus, and you just got too many on your plate.
Do you ever feel that like Uber, because Uber was the disruptor, Uber was the pioneer, the maverick, and after Uber, especially here in Southeast Asia, you see, there's a surge of Grab and of
Tada.
Yes,
Tada.
Gojek.
And Gojek. Yeah.
In the US, you've got Lyft. And, you name it. There's quite a few of them.
Yeah, and Uber was the one who was like, okay, we're starting this. We are going to get on this, and we are going to basically make everyone's lives easier. And in a perfect sense of the word, a lot of technological disruption happens because you are looking to make life easier.
Definitely.
I think in the case of Uber was where it's that decentralization of who was allowed to drive, right? And governments, I think, regulations in general have allowed this particular industry to monopolize, especially in certain countries. Singapore, there's a couple of service providers, but in some countries, there's just one or two. Everything else is sort of like, it's like there's some fake ones and some that are very premium. But at large, I think Uber allowed to give back to anybody who wanted to drive that power to just, if you have a car, come and join us, right? That was a sort of like give back the power to the people.
Yes, definitely.
And that goes hand in hand. I can see why you picked Uber. And the interesting story that kind of evolved behind that was Tada came in the last couple of months.
Ago, yes.
Yeah. And they essentially were not only about the Uber space, but they were just overlaying that with blockchain.
Yes, definitely.
Were you guys involved? Did you look at like how Tada applied that blockchain and how does that kind of?
I've never really actually. I mean, definitely I've heard of Tada. I mean, like, once they launched it, it was just such a big hoo-ha. Media played a super important role in pushing it. Yeah. Oh, Grab have a new competitor right now. I mean, we're going to see a price drop, but we didn't really see a price drop. Yeah. So right now, I feel Tada definitely with the decentralization, it makes things so much easier when you're going to give back the incentives to the drivers. Yeah. I feel personally, if they do store their trips on the blockchain, on Hyperledger, then they can record down, and it makes things so much more easier to filter down.
Now, let me tell you what I've noticed. The week before Tada came into Singapore, Grab prices were really high.
Right.
And they got fined.
Yes.
6 something million.
Yeah, millions
Remember
of
that?
dollars.
Well, Uber pull out and prices just like I mean, for certain peak hours, it was like ridiculously high.
I think we do
Right.
not have any more promotions from Grab.
no,
once
they
Uber
stopped,
left,
right? Remember those
You know that
promotions?
$3 off
Yeah.
and $5
Right,
off.
right.
I really miss that
There
time.
I
be
miss that
rewards.
too. In fact, I
Yeah.
missed half of the points. I don't earn half as many points as I used to.
And it angered people, right? And then there were so many more mistakes that were happening on the app itself, and it became just this really unreliable app. And then they got fined $6 million, which is ingenious. It's fantastic for the for the government, right? Because Grab was happy because they didn't have to reverse those deals. The government was happy because that money went to the government. But then what really the main message here was that they essentially fine wasn't so much of a pain. What really was a pain was when Tara announced they were coming in, and within a span of 2 weeks, even the week before they announced, the price was still a couple of dollars different. Now I don't know, go try it. Grab is actually lower than Tara.
Right. Well, I
Have you
know that
noticed that?
the prices are lower. I remember that. It was like a 3-week period where right before the fines, and it was, I remember in all the social listening, all the forums, all the comments that people would put on news articles. I mean, they were awesome. I mean, looking at
But I think
awesome
it's a
meaning
challenge
funny.
that Grab is actually facing when
Yeah.
a new competitor comes in. They actually have to control their supply and demand. So when a new competitor like Tada comes in, I think they will pay good incentives for the drivers that join Tada. So for them to actually weigh it, you need to have drivers to gain your users, or you need users for the drivers to actually join you.
Yeah.
So I think
the market share play is definitely
Yeah.
very important. And to that point, what I'm saying is Grab seems to be fighting back. They seem to be giving marketing dollars because from a user's, I don't know how it is from the driver's point of view, but from the user's point of view, I've noticed that Grab actually consistently have been slightly cheaper than Tada.
they have money to burn, I guess.
Yeah.
With all the fundings.
Which
and
they did, right? That was where all the promotions, all the
Yeah.
$3 off.
all the
and
$3 off, $5 off. But I don't see that now. I was hoping Gojek to come in quickly and then we can get the incentives, the-
When are they coming back?
I'm not so sure as well. But
I
But they're
thought it
starting
was
soon.
July,
They're starting,
and
is
now
it?
it's
Yeah.
They're starting
November.
soon. They are tying up with DBS right now. Gojek is tying
Yeah.
up with DBS to launch something. Launch an
I'm
initiative in
really
Singapore.
interested to see how the war of the
The marketing
taxi-
campaigns.
Yeah.
$3 off, you got $5 off.
and wait until DE comes in as well.
Yeah.
Is Didi Tatsa coming in?
No,
I don't think so,
haven't
right?
announced that,
Yeah, I
but
don't think
it would be
anytime
so
soon.
fun if they did come in. You've got one of the China biggest player. You've got Indonesia's largest
Yeah.
player. You've got Korea's largest player, and then you've got Singapore Grab, which is
And then there's Comfort, which, you
And
know,
then
For the
Comfort.
users.
yes. Well, actually, I believe that Comfort Delgro provides the technology for the London black cabs. I was talking to a black cab driver back in February, and they were saying, "Oh, I know Comfort Delgro," and I just thought,
But Comfort, I think, where Comfort will win, like SMT and all of those traditional taxi drivers that organizations that didn't really jump into the tech space, if they partner up, they really embrace the technology, embrace the service provider, which they did with Grab, right? Because a lot of you can see Comfort cars and SMRT cars, or maybe not SMRT, maybe like Comfort only, like going with Grab.
I think any taxi drivers in Singapore, they are able to use their phone as a
Yeah.
driver for Grab as well.
right, yeah.
Yeah, they could do that, which is a good thing.
Why wouldn't you, right?
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
If I do not have anyone flagging me for my cab, I could actually pick up a call from
Yeah.
Grab or any service provider that I'm with.
Yeah, because there's Grab Taxi.
Yeah.
You know, and especially there are some buildings, businesses that they won't allow private cars to go in, that you have to
Oh,
have
yeah.
a taxi. So, you know, you can still book on your Grab app. You can book a Grab Taxi, you know.
Yeah. I think maybe your next event, you can get all of these kind of taxi blockchain service provider in one room,
No.
and like give them each other like an armor and a sword and see how they fight off each other.
UFC, right?
Yeah. I mean, that'll be interesting. So when is in terms of the blockchain space, are you guys organizing another event?
Yeah, so Unchained will be a different series of events. We are actually in talks with a few larger conferences as well to actually incorporate Unchained inside. Because
Okay.
Unchained is not meant, we are not planning to make it to like a huge conferences, but we're meant for it for the public, some for the community.
Is
So
there like a social entrepreneurship, social aspect to it?
For us, I wouldn't say social aspect, and I wouldn't rule out it's not, because for Unchained is really the main purpose of Unchained is just to educate the public about blockchain, educate what can blockchain achieve, and it's not just blockchain equal to Bitcoin, that it's just cryptocurrency, because it's a very common misconceptions. And with that misconceptions, you can, throw a lot of heavy money, because a lot of companies, I would say there are a lot of black sheeps in this industry that they are leveraging on people's greed, I would say, to earn more money,
Or
to
trust.
invest. Yes, or trust. So I would say it's really, really, I would say, disappointing to see that. So we really try to launch this initiative to work with big players in the market to actually tell them, this is not the case.
What is SAFRA's view on this? Because with education, which is great, right? But then you can't control or you can't determine how much somebody or what people are taking in while they're listening and learning about stuff, right? So there is a risk where somebody will listen to it and get sucked into this sort of blockchain space and then end up understanding like completely different and end up buying stuff and thinking that this is like the most amazing thing that they've invested, right? Without fully understanding what the technology is about. Especially when you look at the SAFRA, sort of the crowd that has been targeted. What is the demographics and what do they feel about when it's educating a community that doesn't fully understand the deep tech space?
So for us, we definitely, when we were organizing together with SAFRA, the organizing committee definitely have looked into the aspect of this as well. So during the talk or during I would say the event, we did set aside booths outside to cater to such concerns. We invited Institute of Blockchain Singapore, in which they really educate the public just on blockchain, the technology, and if you want to trade, what are the ways and what are the things you should look out for in a safer manner. They are working closely with SUSS as well. So we have a booth there in which, after the talk, you're interested, you wish to know more. Someone who is equipped enough, I would say, with the right knowledge, can teach you. And if you wish to join the blockchain industry, we also get a fintech and blockchain specialized HR company to have a booth there as well.
What does it mean to join the blockchain industry?
Which means that, let's say I would do a career switch. I feel like, blockchain is something that's going to be the next industry disruptor. I want to join. I want to be something, I want to contribute. I want to be more involved with it. So I can join the HR. I can go to the HR company to, probably think, what's suitable for me. Probably, if I'm from the marketing space, I'm from the PR space, okay, where can I join? Which company is looking for such,
So fascinating.
Yes.
Like SAFRA, of all, like even creating a whole ecosystem just around around blockchain.
Yeah. So DeFi,
Yes.
tell us about that, because it seems like you've got your hand in everything.
I would say not really everything. So
Okay.
actually DeFi, a little bit of DeFi, we're actually a creative agency that we specialize just in blockchain, and we do PR, marketing, and events for blockchain companies, or we just launched Unchained. For Unchained is our very own series of events. So we believe through educating a public is where projects can really get more traction in terms of usage of their products. And recently we just started, and we are one of the co-organizers for Blockchain Innovation Tour. And we are very thankful for Matt H together to join us as well. So everyone, we bring projects, I would say, go around to talk and share with the local communities about, what is blockchain. And we will invite local medias down, be it blockchain and mainstream media, to understand for themselves before, we start writing about stuff that's not true again. So we do that as well. So we invite local communities, be it from the public space, be it from the crypto space, to head down and actually hear more about projects in the Southeast Asia.
Interesting.
So actually for blockchain, it's meant to be decentralized, right? So we wish to connect the space. And for, I would say, DeFi, we are actually in Southeast Asia space. We have offices in Vietnam and Malaysia as well. So I think this helps us starts to have the Southeast Asia, connect the Southeast Asia's blockchain community together.
Yeah. Actually, that's interesting because decentralized is sort of used so loosely these days, right? And I think it's that distributed ledger that we talk about, which is in fact not that decentralized. It's more about all the different dots and how do you connect them together.
Yes.
Essentially, what you mentioned, and that is why I think in the blockchain there is that entire sort of decentralized aspect to it. But at the same time, when you really look at the purpose of the technology, is actually trying to connect all the different dots. No, this is fascinating. And so for MH, are you guys also actively involved with DeFi? How do you guys work together?
So they are actually our PR company
Oh,
to help us with, how we can get traction and how people get to know about MedH. Yeah. So we are also trying to gain our users. We could not tell them that, I'm a blockchain company. MedH a blockchain company.
They
tell
won't
you,
understand.
They'd be scared.
They'll be
like,
scared.
yeah.
You're a Bitcoin company.
Oh, Bitcoin. Oh,
No.
yeah.
So we need to find the right partners to actually help us portray what MedH actually is, and we hope people will understand why we need blockchain instead of why I force blockchain into my industry. The things that I'm doing. There's a lot of things that is going on. If you read about the recent news from the Korean company, it's not the medical scene. They said this company actually found a pirate ship, abandoned ship lost in the 1800s or 1900s. Then they create tokens to actually. Okay, what they did was they said that they found this treasure ship, and there's lots of treasures in that ship. So whoever buys my tokens, I would sell the treasures and then
it's like
I will
collateralized.
yes. So this is, I don't really understand why people are trying to do this. Just imagine bird nest or you selling something or keys. Do you need to blockchain the keys?
Yeah.
You don't need that technology.
Yeah.
To actually, so maybe you can trace, I lost this key, how many keys have I made so far? You can trace that data, but you don't really need the blockchain technology in some industry.
I think a lot of businesses are trying to make use of that lack of understanding of how it is that you connect the digital world and the physical world, and how do you make that linkage in terms of the connection between these two. And so they're trying to capitalize on that and try to sort of play around that, knowing that humans tend to be more comfortable when there is a physical stuff behind it. But what oftentimes is not made clear is that there's actually no direct link between the digital world and the physical space.
There is always a direct link. I would not say there is not. But I would actually, in my own opinion, every industry, definitely, you can use the blockchain technology. But the question is really, why do you need it?
Well, exactly. It can be used, but there's not always a practical reason to use it. At least not right now. Maybe there will be
if you want to achieve the objective is more important than to try to
correct.
Use it.
It's not just forcing blockchain technology and find the links. It's what this technology can actually bring value to the things that you're doing.
Exactly.
And actually bring you to another level where you're actually helping the economy. Let's take a look at MedH, what we are doing right now. Medical is usually tagged on to insurance. So if we can fight medical fraud through MedH itself, we're actually bringing the economy, we are like bringing value to the economy. Because insurance is actually tagged on to financial. So if there's more medical frauds, the financial goes down, the economy also goes down. So it's actually tagged on. From what I see is that you can implement blockchain and you see if you help the economy. We are looking at a bigger picture. This is our vision, but we can't really spread it with just us. What we want is that for MedH, we want everyone to actually help us with our ecosystem to make it happen. Because for just our team, so small, 15 people, we can't really, spread everything. And hopefully with the help of everybody that believes in us and help us to create this ecosystem, we can actually help the economy in the future.
So speaking of ecosystem, I did take a look at your website and stuff like this, so look through some of your white papers. So I understand that you actually have some few working partners right now, right? So
So we also have the president of Singapore Medical Association to actually help us with our. So what we did in MedH, we also created clinical softwares for the doctors to use it, and how we penetrated the industry. We are still in talking terms on how much we are going to charge them. Because right now in Singapore, every clinical system will cost you about $3,000 annually. But with the tokens, with the partnership that you have with us, we actually give you 3 years worth of these tokens, and you can pay us through tokens. So
it's like
basically,
$9,000.
Interesting.
It's a savings.
Yeah. So we are still we are also working with a big partner, New Medical Lab. In Singapore, there's only 4 medical labs, and they are one of the big and growing ones. They also allow the doctors that have our tokens to pay them for all the lab tests and lab results, that says say X-ray. So we are creating one whole ecosystem in our own medical industry. That's what I hope to help the Singapore medical scene.
Yeah, there's a lot of blockchain applications that definitely can be used more on the sort of medical space and in the insurance space. finance. There's a lot of industries that are exploring these areas as well. I think it always comes down to who's going to have ownership of the data, of your identity. This is, I think we almost can't escape on like the ownership. That is like the main thing that everybody's trying to crack.
There's
right
a
now.
very, very huge debate on this going on. And with the NEHR system, do you know that the doctors actually have, before they become a doctor, they actually have an oath to, Hippocratic oath, that I cannot release any data, any of my patient data to anybody.
Interesting point.
So they're actually, they are having it's like moral justice against legal justice. If I do not upload this data to the government, I'm against the law. But if I upload this data to the government, I'm against my own moral justice. The Hippocratic oath.
It's about morality and legality, right? It's like what do you like where do you
where do you
towards?
actually go? So with the doctors having this burden, I came up with the idea of MedH, where we transfer the ownership of data to the patient itself. The doctors do not have to carry the burden anymore.
So then they become responsible and the
so
moral
the patient
aspect
itself
is
becomes responsible for your own data.
Yeah.
So if any HR comes to MedH, I can give you all this. I myself can't even read the data from the people that are using my platform. You can have it.
No.
So I will prompt everybody in the app, are you guys willing to upload to any HR?
How does this apply? Because, you know, Singapore is considered one of the medical tourism spots for, you know, our surrounding countries, the patients that come into. How does this affect them?
Okay. So it will not affect them. It actually helps them as well. Because if you are overseas, like I said, your own medical data is with you all the time, 24/7. And only you have the rights to actually show what you want the doctors to see. You get where I'm coming from? Because you have different sets of medical data. So if you see a psychiatrist, you only release relevant psychiatric.
Yeah.
So on the question of like trust, right? Like how do we trust the patient to release
the system or the patient?
Well, the patient, right? Because are we saying that then the blame of transferring the wrong information or releasing the wrong information falls back on the responsibility of the patient?
Okay, so for example, if you go and see a doctor, every doctor is actually tagged on to a medical ID, which is different from your identification number. So when the doctor actually verifies this diagnosis and data, we will actually store it onto your mobile application, and we will use blockchain technology, of course, right? This data, the patient itself cannot tamper with it. They could not edit anything from this data. So it's actually verified that, okay, this doctor gave you this diagnosis. What's the medication that you have taken before? So this also actually helps patients that keeps going to other doctors to gain the same medication.
Right. So it's like double claiming.
So there's no way you will know that I'm having a headache here. I need like 10 Panadols. Or he's a Panadol addict.
Well, you know the coding, you know that stuff that when you have a cold, I have to, then you go to a different doctor. I have a cold.
In the case of the US, where like people are known to go to like, I mean, not just US, like different
in LA, let's be honest, in LA where I'm from.
Xanax, like they would go and claim because it's a prescription only, right? Adderall,
Xanax, yes. Even in Australia, in Singapore, the medical industry is quite different from overseas. Let's take Australia for example.
Right. I've been in forums and I've like heard about these women's forums of shall I go back to can I do this when I go back to Australia? And I'm like, wow.
So in Australia, the doctors are not allowed to actually sell the medicine in their clinics. The doctors are able to give you a prescription. You have to take this prescription to the pharmacist to actually buy your medications. So a lot of people that are drug addicts or addicts to a certain medication, they normally ask people to go and get a prescription and then go forward to them.
It's just like the US. You have a prescription and they send you to go. And
so with Apple now, we have the facial recognition. It's quite cool. We will try to integrate MedH into the Apple system. Like we have a facial recognition. So at least we have something, to procure that you are the right person to take this medication. But that's in the future.
So there'll be a lot of unhappy people.
I would love to see how that pans out, because especially with the public, how do they use their own data? because there's always time that blame on like institutions and how evil they are in terms of collecting my data and using my data and all of that, right? But then now I would like to see how the public will use their own data when you're given, back into your hands.
I think they will keep their data.
Yeah.
Because some of them, like, if I have cancer, I would not want my wife to know.
Yeah.
There's some people that does this. They do not want people to worry about them. They do
Ah,
not
okay.
want people to, yeah.
I'd be all over. I'd be like sympathy.
Some people will not want sympathy from others,
Okay.
where they just keep
Yeah.
their data close to them.
Right.
And some people would like to share everything. So with the
kinda like
ownership,
money.
you can actually share it.
It's kind of like
Oh,
money,
see,
right?
I really
It's
do
like-
have cancer.
Yeah.
If you want to keep it, you just, don't show it.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I would love to see how that goes. So what are the next plans coming along for MH?
For MedH, we are actually launching our prototype pretty soon because we need to get our PDPA and privacy policy up for Apple to approve our mobile application. And then, probably take us about 2 weeks to 3 weeks for it to approve. And then we will have a soft launch beta for like our beta test users to actually use it and see if there's any glitch before we actually implement our blockchain protocols. So we want to make sure our UI, UX and everything is really, really, really,
Yeah,
really
that's important.
Yeah.
And I think now
friendly user.
with the Changi airport sort of blunder with the hackers and everything, it just became more of an immediate sort of urgency need for technologies that are solving for identity storage and the ability to have that control over your own identity and decide whether you want to have it off-chain or on-chain. So that I think we'll see more of that space, right? We've seen a lot of other players as well in the blockchain space that are trying to solve for ownership and identity.
And
Yeah.
security. And I think it's a very exciting time. So it could be like by Christmas, Lunar New Year, you know, it could be a gift that you could give to someone.
Yeah, I give you my data here. This is all
Oh,
wrapped
no, I
up.
mean the app, and having that, that sounds really cool. I'd love to check it out once it becomes available to
Yeah,
the
of
general
course.
public.
We also hope to help, we try to talk to insurance company so you guys can actually lower your premium because you guys are willing to show your health records, your tests and stuff. So you guys don't have to pay for such,
But to the insurance company, the more they know about you, the more transparent it is, the more they can have a more accurate sort of
Yes.
prediction, right? Projections of what is likely
How much
your
is
risk.
it? Yeah, your risk.
Right, right.
So we can actually lower down your premium.
Yeah.
We hope to actually do that in
Yeah.
the future, but we do not know if.
And then you can
insurance
go
will
to them and
actually-
like, what? Do you mean I'm only worth this much?
Wait, or what if you're in a certain age bracket but you're totally healthy? Could it lower your premium? Because you have all of your
Maybe.
data that's
Yeah, you
transparent.
have all your data. You can actually show it. to
Even
the
though on
insurance
paper
company.
you're like, oh, but yet, I'm making a joke. I'm saying because I am getting older. I think my premiums are going to go up. In the
Well,
next
we all
couple of
have,
years.
like, I think some certain degree, like, your premium just, like, kind of shoots up. I was looking at my insurance claim, and I was like, oh, my God, like, really? Yeah, so fantastic. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. It's been great having
Thank
you on
you,
the
thank
show,
you.
Werner and Roy.
Yes, thank you so
Right.
much for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Thank you so
Thank you
much
so
for
much.
Thank
being
you for
here.
inviting me.
Yeah, I look forward to having you back again in a couple of months' time to see how, the sort of your business space and the same thing for DeFi, to see how, this entire sort of education space on the blockchain has really progressed. The community, the more educated they get, the more sort of savvy they understand about the technology, the more they can come together and create something amazing.
And now you are going to be at the next couple of conferences and shows here in
Yes,
Singapore.
Definitely. We're working together with UCIM. We're working together with Block Show right now. So we're also going upcoming one with the Thailand government in Thailand, Digital Asset Summit. So yeah, we'll be there. So
Awesome.
yeah, if anyone of you guys are there, do catch us there as well.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
This is the Blockchain Asia, and we're here with Werner and Roy. Thank you for coming. And
you.
Thank you.
Michelle.
Yes.
What's
See-
for supper?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
We're
we
hungry.
did. For those that didn't catch that, we were just doing a mic test earlier on, and every time the question is what is for lunch, and now what's for supper. It's kind of supper time already. Great. Thank you very much, and
thank you.
have a good evening, and we will come back again next week.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.